Hello class, this is Alex recording live from room 114, and today I'll be teaching you guys about the U.S. involvement in the Balkans and Somalia. So, what happened was this is a little background information of Yugoslavia. So Yugoslavia was a region made up of connected countries called, and this is the first blank, the Social Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. So the blank was Social Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. The countries in the republic were Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, and Slovenia. When region was intact. It was ruled by a man named Joseph Tito, who was able to keep the region together and make sure it would not fall apart from an ethnic war. So if you want to make a little side note under it, the reason why there could have been an ethnic war is because the there were different religions in the region. So if you look up at the map with there's Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia, and all the other countries. Croatia was Catholics, and Bosnia were Muslims, and Serbia were Orthodox Catholics. So that's just a little reference there. So going on to the next slide. So in the next slide, this is where it begins. In 1980, a new president was elected into Serbia, and his name was Slobodan Milosevic, and I'm going to spell that out, or it's right there on the screen for you. It became clear that he wanted to become the main authority of Yugoslavia. 9 years later, Joseph Tito died, and the countries were no longer united. After Tito's death, Croatia and Slovenia declared independence. This turned into chaos when Milosevic made an address to the Serb people in Yugoslavia to rise up and claim your country for Serbia. That's what he said to them. So you should note, while Serbia was invading these countries, it was mostly rebel Serbs in the actual countries that were taking it over. Much like what's going on in Ukraine right now. Alright, let's go next slide. So this is a picture. Pictures of what was happening. There's a man right down here. He died. And to the right, there's Croatian soldiers trying to defend their civilians from Serb rebels. Some people were very afraid enough because they would go into their people's houses. They would hide in their basements. They would cover up their storm drains, barricade themselves in the house because these people were out to get you. So next slide. So after this became public and large, well known, the U.S. and the UN intervened, or this is the intervention. The U.S. and the UN tried sanctions to weaken the Serbian army, and this had no impact. Later they tried airstrikes on the Serbian army, and again there was no impact. The only way of driving out the Serbians was to unite Bosnia and Croatia into a temporary federation. And thanks to Jimmy Carter, old president, he brokered a peace agreement. It worked, and the Bosnian Croatians were victorious. So it was also known, if you want to put it under a note, the agreement was called the Dayton Agreement of 1995. So, next slide. So here's a picture of what it really was like. Hundreds of thousands of people died during this crazy time of Yugoslavia. Over 260,000 people died. So the costs were staggering. So combined deaths was 260,000. So that's the blank for that one. So next, what happened while the war was ending in Bosnia and Croatia, the Serbians were dealing with an eternal affair which remained dark to the world. The Serbs had been on a campaign to ethnically cleanse their province Kosovo of all Albanian Muslims. They tried to wipe out their education, their culture, and killed any man above the age of 14. So the blanks were wiping out their education and their culture, and the age is 14. But the most repulsive thing that came out of this genocide was ethnically cleansing a people does not mean killing them. So there is education stuff. The Serbs had a plan to impregnate and rape all Albanian women to destroy the next age of men and women, so they wouldn't have any ties to Albanians. So that was the way they were trying to ethnically cleanse them. I would consider that the most repulsive. So here's some pictures of some of the genocide. What happened was these men up here, these are the special forces of Serbia, and they were commanded to go in, round up the people, and kill them. And in 2008, if you look bottom right corner, this is a giant human fossil. What happened is they must have put them in a pile. They didn't dig them. They didn't dig up a hole for them. And when they put a dirt over them, the rain came in and pushed it downwards, and it fossilized. So, and then later they destroyed it because it was too horrific for anyone to see. So once the U.S. got news of this, the U.S. response, the U.S. with the world supporting it, said that the world has experienced enough genocide, and it was time to end any and all mass killings. So, the blank is experience enough genocide. So what they did is, the U.S. fired missiles from warships, and some hundreds of miles away. So they were firing these from Finland, Italy, anywhere they had navy ships, and they were firing it on the Serbian military base of operation in Kosovo while they were committing the genocide. They also made a continuous barrage of airstrikes onto the city. So they'd have literally fighter jets come in, and while those fighter jets are coming in, there are some coming out to refuel. They're coming back in. They're going out. They're coming back in, and they make sure they're keeping a constant pressure on the Serbians to what's the word? To give in to the U.S. demands. So here's a picture of international response, like genocide. Enough is enough. So Bosnians were in there because there was a Bosnian genocide. It wasn't as big though. And then there are other ones like Jews from Holocaust, Gypsies, Hutus from the Rwandan genocide. It was big. And here's a picture of some men refueling some of the fighter jets with their missiles. And then there are some people fleeing from Kosovo. So here's a picture of the bombardment of Kosovo. While there were no civilians in Kosovo, because most of them had fled the country to Albania and Montenegro and Macedonia, the U.S. was showing the full might of the United States Air Force and Navy. So, and going back to the slide, what happened is, this is not in the slides, but or on your guided notes, Milosevic did surrender, and he was going to be trialed and executed by Kosovo, and he actually died in his cell before the ending of the trial of a heart attack, and he was guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. So now we're going to start Somalia. So Somalia had been imperialized, like most of Africa by European countries, and so the blank would be imperialized. They had suffered the worst of most African countries because they had been religiously educated by Islamic people. So what I'm saying is there were people coming in from Saudi Arabia and making pilgrimages to get people to join the religion, and they thought Islam was the one true religion for them. So this was few hundred years ago. Somalia had fought in many wars with nearby countries such as Kenya and Ethiopia, and the Soviet Union, during the time of the Cold War, wanted Ethiopia to invade and conquer Somalia so they can strategically place a military base in the country. So, and the thing is, if you look over here, here's the first picture. There's Europe dividing up Africa, either eating it, and then the second picture is what these European countries did to Africa. They caused all these things that Africa wasn't before. They didn't have warlords, civil wars, dictatorships, poverty, hunger, and things like that because they turned these countries into giant chaos pits. So also the thing was they became so prone to violence because switching from the Italians and the British were Protestants and the Italians were Catholics, and they both pressured them to not be Muslim, and when they were switching back and forth between the religions, it was bad. They would beat them, kill them, force them into that religion, and it would just keep changing. So next slide. So now the Somali Civil War begins. So after the war with Ethiopia, backed by the Soviet Union, Somalia fell into a civil war because rival clan chiefs could not decide who was to lead the country. They all wanted it for their own. So this man, first blank, Mohammed Farah Aidid, and I'll spell it to you. So Mohammed, Mohamed, Farah, Farah, and Aidid, Aidid, which is probably already on there. Why did I even say that? All right, sorry guys. He was a warlord in Somalia to defeat the rival. So to defeat the rival clan chiefs, he seized all food supplies and foreign aid to start. And what he did is to starve the country into submission. So over 300,000 people died of this starvation, and over 50,000 just from the war itself, from war injuries. So that's a lot of people on the next slide. So the world had a big debate over, was this genocide, was this a famine? It was a famine. They were suffering from a famine before, but what he did is he cut off all support from international support such as the Red Cross and UN, and would seize the food shipments. So now there's the US intervention. So first blank, the Red Cross asked for the help of the US because they were unable to continue bringing aid and relief to the people suffering from the famine. The US then deployed into Somalia with the goal of restoring order to Somalia and bringing relief to Somali people. So how would they do this? Not them, but the Somalian people coming for RAD's men. They would literally go up to these convoys of Red Cross trucks. Then they would throw them out of the trucks, either steal the trucks, take all the food. If any civilian or Somali person were to try to get on the truck and take food, they would shoot them right there on the spot, not ask questions. They would just move on. So next slide. So one of the biggest battles of Somalia was called the Battle of Mogadishu. So the objective was to go into the city and capture Aidid's military advisors. Then the US would interrogate the advisors and find out where Aidid was hiding. Though the mission was a success, 18 US soldiers died and over 1,000 Somalis during the conflict. This was a colossal failure for Bill Clinton's administration. So the blanks for that one are Aidid's military advisors. So did we reach our goal? Well, while we did not bring order and stability to Somalia, we were able to end the famine in some of the worst areas and saved an estimate of 6 million lives. So the blank would be 6 million lives. And here it shows how when we did bring stability in a few parts, we were able to get tons of relief and food. We were able to get doctors on the ground. We were able to save lots of people. So I would say we saved Somalia from the famine in the 1990s. Today, Somalia is still a war-torn country. It's divided into multiple spots, multiple areas, and it's bad, and there's still a famine going on there today. So I will be showing some footage from Black Hawk Down during class for when I have to present this to you guys. So hope to see you guys there. Bye.